This is Straight Talk with Atlanta native Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fan, the Preacher Man.
Well, welcome to a new edition of Straight Talk with Jones with the Greg Fan, the Preacher Man. I know you see a chair there, you see it's empty. Well, you know. You already know. I don't even have to say, you already know. But listen, we have a great program designed for you. We got Miss C coming. She's going to be talking about news and information. And again, if you like to, you got news and information, you want to send them to C, just send it straight to the news. How about that? And 1362@gmail.com. And we want you to subscribe to our channel. We want you to like us. We'd like for you to make comments and share with your friend. This week we have as our special guest Sandra Williams. Sandra Williams is with RSDW, a local union and international union dealing with domestics and workers in the field, factory field, chicken field, different types of workers. But she's going to be talking to us about labor, and we're going to be discussing labor and the importance of labor. And then we'll have Shannon and I will come back, and we're going to talk a little bit about labor, but we're going to talk some about this abortion and what's going on with this abortion in state, what happened in Kansas City last night, and what happened to Mrs. Joyner in terms of her 9-year sentence by the Russians. Well, stay tuned. Don't you go nowhere. Don't you touch it. Share it, comment, like us, subscribe.
Hey Greg, hey Shannon, Miss C here, y'all. I've got some news for you. Okay, listen. Hold on. The Gathering Baptist Church, a new ministry at 3605 Main Street in College Park, shepherded by our own Reverend Shannon Jones, invites you to worship with them each Sunday at 11 a.m. For more information, you can go online to their website at thegatheringatl.com. Temple of Prayer Family Worship Cathedral at 161 Sonoya Road in Fairburn welcomes you to their Christian education classes each Sunday at 9 a.m. Morning worship begins at 10 a.m. and they only allow 60 people in there per service. Call them at 770-969-5126 or go online to templeofprayerchurch.org. You're also invited to worship online with New Zion Baptist Church each Sunday at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at noon, and this is via Facebook. They're located at 2100 Abner Place in Northwest Atlanta. Reverend Jarius Dorsey is pastor. And listen, I know what 4 things I want you to do for me today. I want you to share us. I want you to like us. I want you to leave comments. And then I want you to subscribe to us. There's a little button on there that says subscribe. And if you press that little button, it'll show you subscribed. And we certainly would appreciate it. And if you have any news that you'd like to share, send it to me to that's Straight Talk News 1362 at gmail.com. That's Straight Talk News 1362 at gmail.com. And we're going to see you right back here next time. Have a wonderful week.
This is Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and I'm here with my good friend in organized labor. You know I'm a labor man. I'm labor today, labor tomorrow, I'm labor forever. Forever. Right. Forever. And listen, this is Sandra Williams, and she would, I know you were the executive director for the Labor Council, but now you're back with...
I am back with the Retail Wholesale Department Store Union, Bishop.
Okay, well, let's talk about unions and organized labor. We see so many people now that are organizing. A lot of groups, Amazon, Starbucks, a whole lot of people seeing the need for unions. For a long time, for a while back, people were like, well, there's no need for unions. Unions are dead. They're archaic. But now it looks like there's a resurgence of people want to be a part of organized labor.
Well, I think people see that when we come together, we are definitely stronger. And through the pandemic, you saw a lot of people, essential workers, having to work. No raise in pay. We are in a state, as you know, in Georgia, where the minimum wage is $5.15.
Amen. People don't know that, do they?
Not that people don't know that, and not all jobs fall under the federal guidelines, $7.25 an hour.
Right.
So it's important for people to realize that we are of value and to know our worth. When we talk about labor unions, you've seen Starbucks, you've seen the Apple stores, of course, you've seen Amazon.
Right.
There is a movement, and it's very important that we all get involved, particularly here in Georgia, in a right-to-work state.
True that, true that.
And that should not mean right to work for less. So we know it's incumbent upon people like you who have been in the labor movement for years, teaching,
Ooh,
training,
Jesus.
and educating people on the value of labor unions. But we also need to reach out and tell people, when we talk about voting rights, because you don't have to throw that in.
Sure.
When we talk about voting rights, it's just like rights in the workplace. We want policies to change in the workplace. More often than not, when you talk about issues that people have at work, it doesn't really center around the pay, but the treatment and the respect or lack thereof.
And let's not forget benefits too now. Benefits.
And benefits.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for labor, we wouldn't have a 40-hour work week.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't have vacation. We wouldn't have sick leave. The benefits of unions go on and on and on. So it's the same thing with voting. We want policies in the country to change. Therefore, it's incumbent upon us to encourage people to what?
Vote.
Get out and vote.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that you said, and I think that it's very important, and I was doing this last night in my Bible study, because just like God blesses us, and we're going through this, and God bless us. We don't go out and testify of the goodness of the Lord. We don't talk about how good God is, how God delivered us from this, and God delivered us. It's like once it's happened, and so forget God. And that's the same way people do with unions. You know, people come to unions, come to us, I need to join the union, you know, after they got a problem. Many people do, right? But they don't want to join the union before they have a problem, because they ain't got no problem. They ain't bother me. I don't have a problem, so I don't need to be a part of the union. But time they have a problem, the first thing they want to do is, how do I get me a union card? How do I pay the dues? And then once they get in and they get their problem solved, then they start talking about bad mouthing the union. They don't tell people how good the union is, how the union saved their job, how the union helped them to get suspended versus being terminated, or how the union got their suspension revoked. You know, they don't talk about those things. Right. You know, and that's the problem with the union today, is that people who are in it, they don't talk about what benefits they're getting from the union. And this is what they do, Sandra. You know, that's better as well as I do, is that they look for you and I and others who are in the leadership role to be able to do everything for them. But the union is everyone that's a part of it. It's just like you talking about voting. The voting is every person that is a part of the voting process and has the right to vote, or the privilege for black folks. It's a privilege for us. It ain't quite a right yet. You know, people say it's a right, but they have to vote on whether or not we can even vote after so many years. But the reality of it is that once you're a part of organized labor, you ought to get in it. You ought to go to meetings. You ought to bring up issues. You ought to see what's really going on in your workplace, respectively. Don't wait till you got to have a problem and then run to the union. You need to be a part of the union.
Absolutely. Now. And one thing you said that's key, the union is just like the church. The body of the church are its members.
Right.
The union is not a union without its members.
Absolutely.
Each and every one of us that are in labor unions know we make up that union. Just like you make up your workforce. No product moves away from your plant. No people get service if you, that employee or the worker, is not there. So that's why we say, if you don't know about unions, I invite everyone to participate in our monthly, second Wednesday of every month. The Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council has a delegate meeting. It's open to the public. Come and learn about unions. If you want any information, contact Bishop Fan.
Oh my God.
Or contact myself, because
well, I'm going to give him your information, so give him the number now. Give him the number how to get to you. They know how to get me. Give him the number how to get you.
Oh, okay. All right. I could be reached 678-209-6019. We'll get you directly to me. One other thing I want to say,
sure.
It's important as we look at people going back to work. We know children are going back to school. Take a few minutes out of your day just to recognize the works of all the teachers that are greeting those students coming back in. Lift your children up, lift each other up, because again, the more we do together, the more we stand together, the more we educate one another on every part of our lives, the better we become. An informed workforce, an informed student body, that's what moves us forward in this life. That's what moves us forward through this movement. So that's why I encourage everyone, if you are a worker, and it doesn't mean that your workplace is bad, but it does mean when you come together, that's a diversity of thought and action that you can make every place that you are better by your collective actions.
And I agree with that, and it works. It definitely together works. And, well, you know, we've seen a few people bring about a change, but if you have more people that's engaged and not just paying your money, but just a part of it, coming to meetings. And Sandra's going to tell you it's at 501 William Street in the auditorium where you'll come for the monthly meeting. But I'll put that in there for you. But I want to also say, you talked about the teachers. Thank the bus drivers. Thank the custodians. Thank the dietitians. Thank everybody that's affiliated with that school system or any job. The bus drivers, the people who drive the bus, who move this city, who you get on the bus and they make it possible for you to be able to get to wherever you're going, your job, wherever you're going. Thank a bus driver. Don't insult them. Thank them. I appreciate you. You know, for through this COVID, and it was difficult for a lot of people to still be working. And those bus drivers, and especially the model bus drivers, especially driving those buses and those trains, and you not knowing who got COVID and who don't have COVID, but making sure that people were taken care of and transported to their respective places. And so many people, the police officers, firefighters, it's just so many. Everybody's a worker, and I say this, Sandra, because there was something that I really believe in is that everyone is a worker. Everyone works. Everyone works. If you get a paycheck, you're working somewhere. And as a worker, and we say, I don't need to be in a union, but the world is a union. The country is a union. So we're better together, we're stronger together, and as a union, the unions have proved their worth over and over and over again, even when they try to kill them, when Reagan tried to kill the air traffic controller union, and they're still vibrant, and they're still, because they need them. You need air traffic controllers. Hey, listen, I'm not going to get on a plane. I'm not getting on a plane if somebody's not up there navigating that pilot.
That's right. We separate our airspace from other planes when we're in the air.
Absolutely. So, I mean, everybody's important. There's a importance whatever job you're in, whether you're cooking burgers, whether you're out there at the airport and you're sky cap and you're making sure people's luggage is checked in. I mean, everybody's job is important. And everybody, I don't care who you are, you need to be a part of a union. And the fear of being a part of a union for many people is, I don't want to start it because they'll fire me. They'll fire me. This is scripture. Paul talks about this. Your life is predestinated. God has chosen where your life is going. If I'm a man, I'm gonna speak my mind. I'm gonna say it because this is straight talk. I say it, period. And Sandra knows it. Everybody who know me know that. I'm gonna say it because, see, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Because guess what? If they fire you from that job, God got something better for you. But you have championed a cause to help so many others to be able to have a voice in the workplace. The young man who took on Amazon, the young man who took on Amazon, he did not fear that he was going to lose a job at Amazon because he looked at that, because God had predestined him to be that voice for those workers at Amazon, and it's spreading like wildfire now. And people are organizing like wildfire. You know, you guys are down in Bessemer trying to organize.
That's right. Let me just say something to our listening audience. The Straight Talk is the best way to get current information on a number of topics.
Right.
So thank you for talking to me today about labor. But we have to remember, everyone, 30% higher wages for people doing the same job that belong to labor unions. And all tides do what? Lift the boat. When you work together, if you're not interested in higher wages, perhaps it's something, as we were talking about the Amazon workers in Bessemer.
Right.
You want to know when you're going to get off. Our families are very important to us. So family time is important. Mandatory overtime says you may get a text from your employer, not a supervisor coming over to speak to you, but a text saying we need you to work an additional 4 hours. If you have young children, or if you care for a parent or a loved one, and you have a certain schedule that you know you're going to be at work, once you're told that you have to stay, then you're at a decision-making point. You could lose your job anyway if you decide that you're not staying. And it doesn't have to be in a right-to-work state. It can be one time. It doesn't have to be, well, it was multiple times that you had to leave, or it was multiple times that you were late, because there is very little recourse for employees when an employer comes over and said, you know what, that's it, you were late today, we're terminating you.
And let me, I'm glad you said that, because those variables are variables that will happen, can happen, and do happen. So maybe it didn't happen to you, but it can happen to you, okay? And it will happen to you. One, and we're going to talk about this very briefly. As you know, that the federal government now is looking to certain employees, so many employees, and this is some of Trump mess, he started early, but the Republicans still trying to carry on. In terms of certain positions, they want to declassify them in terms of those positions having job protections. In the civil service, under the Civil Service Act, it gave employees job protection, and I'm very familiar with it, because I was president of the union, executive director of the union for ASME for many years with Fulton County, and so I understand the civil rights protection, and we fought to keep it in Fulton County, but then eventually we got Republicans in who removed the rights of employees to have the right to appeal their termination or suspension. Those things are very important when you're working on a job where you can appeal whether or not you were fired fairly or fired unfairly, or suspended fairly or unfairly, or demoted fairly or unfairly. Those are rights that you want to have on a job. You don't want to come in today and then they say, you can't find your time card, or Chronos. They don't have Chronos now, that way you can check in, and they say, well, you fired. Or at the end of the day, they let you work to the end of the day and call you in the office and say, today's your last day.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's the value of having a union, having support around you, having a union contract that actually stipulates in black and white your rights as a worker.
Right.
And conversely, the rights of the company as your employer. But without that, then we get into a murky gray area, as you just mentioned, that you could be terminated for, it's supposed to be just cause for no cause.
Right.
It's just personal, and you were tardy or you were late. You have a child that may suffer from asthma. You were educated on the family medical leave practice, and you lost your job. So then what are you supposed to do? With no backup and no union, you just go look for another job. And it may not be as easy for you, depending on your skill set, to find another job. So that's why I encourage everybody, educate yourself. I had a woman once, I was traveling in South Carolina, and I was actually organizing a nursing home. And the woman called me aside, and she said, you could get arrested for that. And I was like, what, ma'am? She was an elderly lady, but she was trying to protect me. And her thought was, in South Carolina, given how harsh their governor had been, that it could be illegal for me to be organizing a union there. So it's not illegal, but in the South, it is not respected that you organize a union. That is not unlike, a lot of other, I'm in Georgia now, but a lot of states in the South discourage people from joining the union because they want to be the decision makers in how you make your livelihood, how you're treated on the job. And we have more power than that as employees, as workers. We have to stand together. And something else, people say, well, they just take my union dues and they do whatever they want to. Well, first off, if you're part of the union, you have a say in how those union dues are spent. And that's important, right?
But if you don't go to meeting, you can't say nothing.
But if you don't show up at the meeting, then you don't know how the money is being spent, whether it's in any organization. If you don't show up, then you don't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Your union dues are also tax deductible. But it is about being engaged. It is about having a voice. And it is about taking care of your fellow man. People ask, am I my brother's keeper?
Yes,
Today
you are.
we need to not only be our brother and our sister's keeper.
Absolutely.
Because we have the power to move forward collectively. Don't ever let anybody discourage you. I did some work on the Delta flight attendant campaign. They're organizing. And the funniest thing to me, when I spoke to him, I said, I just found out that the most difficult part of your job, you weren't even being paid for up until about a month ago. Delta flight attendants were not paid until the door shut on the plane. So that whole boarding process, and I exaggerate this, but it felt like if you're sitting there ever watching, people dragged on chickens, horses, bags that are way too big for the overhead. And those men and women have to sit there and watch while that's going on and even assist them, but they don't get paid till their door shut. That just changed back the end of May, 1st of June.
Oh, man.
So I applaud folks like Sarah Nelson and Dante Harris and Couture Johnson for the work that they're doing across the country in an effort to organize them. The same thing with my union, the RWDSU, trying to organize Amazon. We've had our second election. We're still waiting to find out that, because there are charges, that the company did a number of things to dissuade people. They have the mandatory meetings where you have to go. They won't let you have a break for 15 minutes, but yet still they'll keep you in a mandatory meeting for 30 minutes to talk about why you shouldn't join the union. So, but I know that movement, our movement, has increased the number of unions, the number of individuals that are organizing their workspace.
Sure.
Because we don't have to take it anymore.
Well, there's a old saying from the movement. It's an old saying, but it's a true saying. We don't say it enough. We ain't gonna take it no more. We ain't gonna take it no more. And I got pictures of myself with my bullhorns marching and saying that we ain't gonna take it no more. And but we have to come together collectively. It's not an individual effort. It's a collective effort of all individuals who are concerned, who are working for the betterment of all workers, all workers. And I used to tell directors this: you're a worker just like these people here working. And if these people don't perform the mission that is set forth by your bosses, which were the politicians, elected officials, the policymakers, if they don't perform those missions that have been set forth, guess who's looking bad? You are, not them. They can't fire of them, but they sure can fire you.
That's right.
You can be replaced, but all of them can't be replaced. So let me just say this to you as we close this.
I have one more thing to add.
You do? Oh, go on.
Just so anyone that is interested in seeing how labor and faith and community come together, we're going to have a Labor in the Pulpit event, and Bishop Van will tell you more about that in the weeks to come, but it's going to be Labor Day weekend. We will be spearheading that just because we know one of the first laborers that we have ever known and heard about was Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So we, in his image, are coming together to bring about thought and discussion as it relates to labor unions, as it relates to politics, as it relates to the world in which we live. We work hand in hand because we are together, and as we mentioned, together we are stronger. So look forward to Labor in the Pulpit.
We'll be telling you more about that. And as we continue the program coming up to Labor Day, and we'll probably have different people on talking about labor from time to time, because that's a message that needs to get out more and more and more. And like Jesus, we need to talk more about Jesus. We need to talk more about Jesus Christ and God and what God has done in our life, especially during this pandemic.
That's absolutely
and I want to. This is just. I was finna close out, Sandra. You just made me think about something. This labor union, your Georgia labor union organization, Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council, and the Georgia AFL-CIO, which represent labor unions across the state of Georgia and in the metro Atlanta area. This young lady, along with others, Shannon Jones, who was my co-host, and myself went down to the Labor Commission's office when it was shut down and demanded that they open the doors and demanded that people get their checks because people were not getting paid. Now they did this on a regular and a consistent way with State Representative Bowden, State Representative Sandra Scott, State Representative Kim Scapefield, and many, many others. What's his name? Roger Bruce, and so many. It was just so many of them that were crying out, asking that this labor commissioner open up the door. Now, there's going to be an election that's coming up. Now, we in labor, we said we need to find somebody who understands labor to be in that position. And labor, and I'm going to say this, labor is endorsing and supporting William Bowden for that position because Bowden has been vocal. He's been very out front about it from day one, trying to make sure that people who are unemployed because of no fault of their own, because of the pandemic, that they would get the checks that they were deserving. And we need to have people that's going to fight for us and going to stand up for us, and not people talking about it, but people that being about it, like organized labor. So you'll find out more and you'll hear more about organized labor. We appreciate you right here on Straight Talk. This ain't nothing but Straight Talk with Justin Grand Fan, the Preacher Man. And we want to hear your comments too. Send them to us. We want to hear what you have to say. Hey, and this segment, I'm going to end this segment because I got to talk to Shannon. Y'all know Shannon's always somewhere doing something. He's just late. He's the late Shannon Jones. I don't mean he's deceased or anything. He's just late. All right. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, see, I told you, Shannon, he's just a late Shannon Jones, but he has showed up. Hey, Shannon.
Man, I'm telling you, I tried with you, but I couldn't make it because I'm still at Stone Mountain.
Well, we on the lake today. We on the lake. We ain't at the mountain. We on the lake.
That don't look like a lake to me.
Well, it's a lake.
That don't look like no lake to me.
Well, we're on the island then. How about that? And it ain't fantasy.
Yeah, looks like you're on the ocean. And you see who I got with me. I got Mateo, so I'm still here in Georgia. I'm just holding on. Listen, the great interview with Sandra, I tell you, Sandra, labor is important. I think people need to understand how important labor is and why they need to be a part of some union. Because America is a union. It's a union. This country is a capitalistic society, and you got the billionaires, you got the people with a plenty, and the people without any, and the people without any need to have a voice in the workplace so that they'll get their percentage and they'll be protected on their jobs and receive decent benefits, decent work hours. All of those things, that's what organized labor do. But we're gonna move on now, Shannon, to talk about Mrs. Oh man, the young lady just got 9 years. Brittany Griner, 9 years.
The basketball player, a political pawn being used because of what's happening in Ukraine and the United States supporting Ukraine.
They ignored all the evidence. She pleaded guilty. They ignored that. They brought her team over from the Russian Federation that talked about how important she is to expanding basketball in the country, especially among women. And they just completely ignored everything that she did and every defense that she gave, and gave her a very harsh. And prisons over there, it ain't like Fulton County Jail or even the Atlanta Penitentiary. She's in something like Mandela was in almost 40, that he got out of 30-something years ago, Robben Island.
It's sad, man, and I hate this for her family and herself that she has to go through this, but God is still yet in control. God is still yet in control.
Yes, he is. 31 years ago. Yes, he is.
Yeah, God is still yet in control, and we're just going to keep praying for her and for her family that God will intervene and then give her a sound state of mind and keep her in a sound state of mind as she's dealing with the things that she's having to deal with in Russia, and praying for the people of Ukraine and people period. The Bible talks about wars, and then rumors of wars in these latter days, and we see so much stuff that's going on that that's people killing folk, the gun thing, that gun violence is everywhere. Our kids are back in school, and we're praying for that because
we just don't know, Sandra, what we don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
That's right.
And
We don't.
and so, as men of faith, and I'm gonna say men of faith because that's what we walk by, faith and not by sight. We have this abiding hope and assurance that it's going to be a better tomorrow. But we have to suffer what we have to suffer and endure what we have to endure till we get to that tomorrow. But I just hate it for her and her family. I hate it for her and her family. But one of the things that I want to just segue into is these elections in Kansas, and how the people of Kansas say keep our Constitution intact, allow for abortions, people to have abortion. And when we start talking about right to life and those kinds of things, I know people say, well, y'all are ministers and y'all support abortion. Well, there's certain kinds of incidents where people need to have an abortion. If someone says, well, the doctor said, well, your kid is born is going to be never a natural, a normal kid. It will suffer all kinds of sicknesses and diseases and those kinds of things during its lifetime, and the parent make a decision, we're just going to abort this child because we want to bring a child in the world that's going to suffer these kinds of afflictions. And so people would say, well, you got people saying, well, that ain't no reason to abort. Someone that's been raped and carrying a child that has been raped, they got to look at that child from a rapist for the rest of their lives, and not knowing the DNA or the characteristics of the person who raped them, that child could turn out to be just like the person who raped them. That they may say in their mind, I don't want to carry this child full term. I mean, there are circumstances why people would want to do that, and but Kansas and the state of Kansas, they did make the constitutional all right for abortion. So,
well, I was talking to some lawyer friends of mine, and I think I may have said this before, and I'll say it again. I mean, you've got some cases where in some of these laws to miscarry, it could also be punishable by law. In some of these instances, you could be raped by your father or brother. So you could be carrying your own brother and son. A woman could be carrying that within her womb and be forced to bring that child to bear. But I was saying that in Georgia we've got this heartbeat bill where I think it's 6 weeks. Yeah. Some women don't even know they're pregnant in 6 weeks. But they're saying that 6 weeks, that baby, that fetus could come out of the mother's womb, and they literally say that baby could live outside of their mother's womb at 6 weeks old as a fetus, or that the egg is the person. And so I said, well, okay, let's let the more conservative members of the Supreme Court, go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and order up a 12-piece of chicken, and I scramble up 12 eggs and give it to them. They would be upset. They would say, this is not what we ordered. We didn't order scrambled eggs. We ordered 12 pieces of chicken. We said, well, we actually gave you more than you asked for. We gave you 12 whole chickens, not a piece of chicken. You ordered 12 pieces of chicken. We gave you 12 whole chickens. No, you didn't. You gave a scrambled egg. But you said the egg is the same thing as the person. Well, if the egg is the same thing as the person, the egg is the chicken. And we gave you not a piece of egg. We gave you the whole egg. We gave you 12 whole chickens for the price of a 12-piece of chicken. And, of course, they wouldn't agree with that.
Well, as a kid, going to Fort Valley, Georgia, certainly going to Fort Valley, Georgia, where my grandmother was and my dad's mom, and I used to have to go out to the hen house to get the eggs, right, and chop the wood and those kinds of things. I know people say, well, dog, is that you? You didn't. Yes, I did. Pick pictures too. But anyway, the one morning I went out and to the hen house and picked eggs, and my grandmother, that's when I stopped eating eggs, really. My grandmother cracked the egg, and there was, in that egg was formed a biddy that it was shaping to become, a chick, right? I was a kid, didn't understand the chickens come from the eggs, right? Didn't understand that concept, and just like you just laid out then, right? But the forming of that chick was in that yolk. So I see what you're saying and understand what you're saying is that if you have the forming of it, is that really a kid or a child? Is it at that stage, 6 weeks? Is in 6 weeks, is that kid or boy or girl being formed in 6 weeks in that egg? So if someone in 6 weeks, there's no formation of a human being, then how could that be? And they saying 6 weeks, that egg should have a heartbeat. Is that scientifically proven, or is that just something that they're saying? Is that in every case? I mean, is that in every case? You know what I mean? So I mean, you know.
And they're saying, some of them are saying, Bishop, at conception. They're saying child support should be paid at conception. So that means like the next morning.
So 5 times she said I'm pregnant, then you should start paying child support.
They say at conception, that's a person at conception.
Time they say she said I'm pregnant.
That's it, Doc. Half the check. Half the check. Calling Ford Motor Company. We need half the check.
Well, you know,
for Rakeem Elliott.
Let me
half Rakeem Elliott check.
He
gonna stay out of Club 112 one way or the other.
But we don't even know if it's a boy or a girl. So what are we paying child for, a boy or a girl?
Half the check.
And we
God forbid if he went out and did this thing over the course of a weekend or spring break. He would make no money.
What about if they're triplets or quadruplets or twins?
That's it. That's it.
Jesus.
This is the world that we're living in, and all we don't want to make mockery of this reproductive health stuff, but this is the world we're living in, man, and that's why it's too many people in this examination room. It should be between this woman, her God, and her doctor, and I think that's it. And in a family setting, I think that it would be between a husband and a wife, their God, and their medical team.
I was looking the other day at as they were interviewing people pro and con on the abortion issue, and this young lady and her husband, and that's why I said earlier, who talked about why they aborted their kid and why they think that abortion is in some cases is relevant, because their kid, they had been told that that kid been born, that kid would suffer all kind of sicknesses and diseases and would not be a normal kid. And so they made a decision between husband and wife, you said, to abort, right? So I think that should be, in my opinion, that should be a husband and wife choice or woman's choice as to whether or not they want to carry full term a child that from a rape victim or from, whether or not the child will be normal or what have you, because that's an emotional thing people have to deal with, even if they abort, they still have to deal with that thing in terms of, how they're going to feel later on about, losing a child. I've had several people who have had miscarriages, and it's an awful thing on the woman to have lost a child, but to abort a child, that I'm sure that's also a feeling too. But that's a choice that's made when you abort. But when you have a miscarriage, that's not your choice. That happens for many women.
Absolutely.
Many women.
And then maybe one day we can dedicate a show. This a sister told me, a friend of mine I was speaking with, and I know we got to move on, mentioned to me Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed thee in the womb, before I formed thee in your mother, I knew you before you were born.
Right.
I ordained you, and I said, but it said before you were born. it said before you were born. In other words, he knew you, and that he knew came to fruition and was ordained. So, a lot of times we look at scriptures, and it just, a lot of clergy are wrestling with this yet again with the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade. And I think we should wrestle with stuff. We should wrestle with it because with issues, not stuff, but we should wrestle with these issues because a lot of times people are caught in trying to go around the societal issues and the political issues, and the gospel has to go straight through. It can't go around.
Well, we'll be back with you next week with more here on Straight Talk. And listen, this is what we're going to ask you to do for us as always. Subscribe to our channel. 1, like us. 2, comment. 3, and 2, share with your family and friends. And this ain't been nothing but what? Straight Talk.
Oh.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan.